Hello, greetings. Welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be focusing on algebraic expressions. You're introduced, or rather, it's a continuation of the algebraic expressions that you learned in grade 9. Now we're mainly going to be focusing on products. What are products? Products are basically algebraic expressions that are always associated with a multiplication. So, in simple context, we can say that products are the multiplication of algebraic expressions. Algebraic expressions. So, in this case, whenever we multiply the algebraic expressions, we're going to be moving from monomials to polynomials. Polynomials, we're going to talk about what those are or revisit what those are. Let's start with a monomial. A monomial, we're talking about anything that has one term. For example, A is a monomial, 2A is a monomial, 2x is a monomial. Then we're going to be talking about a binomial. So far, I think you understand anything that has bi, it means two. Binomial, it has two terms. It's going to be an example of maybe, let's say, 2a plus 3b. If they cannot simplify each other, what do I mean by that? If you have 2a plus 2a, it's going to be 4a. So this is still what? A monomial. Even though we had two terms here, it can be furtherly simplified into a monomial. So if you cannot simplify this, because you cannot add 2a and 3b, so it remains two terms, which is going to be a binomial. Another example, it can be your 2x plus maybe 4y. We cannot simplify these further, so it's going to be that. Then a trinomial. If you got binomial, you know that triangle 3. So basically it has three terms. An example of this, we can say a plus b plus c. This is a famous example, or it can be 2y plus 3y plus, not 3y, let's say 3x. Just erase this. 3x plus maybe 4z. We cannot simplify these further, so these remain 3, which is going to be a trinomial. Then we have a polynomial. A polynomial is basically having two or more terms. Let me just put it like that. Two or more terms, which means binomials, they fit, trinomials, they fit. If I was to play around with my words, I could have a quadrinomial, but hey, I'm not the master of maths. So in this case, we're going to be focusing on the four scenarios whereby you multiply a monomial with a monomial, which results into a monomial, you guessed it. Then we're going to have number 2, whereby we take a monomial and we multiply it with a binomial, which you can guess a binomial will result. Then number 3, we're going to be now taking a binomial, two terms, remember, multiplying it with what? With a binomial. Then this will result into, you did not guess it right, a polynomial. I know you said a binomial. But anyways, it's going to be that. Then the last one is going to be a binomial multiplied a trinomial. This is where we're going to end in our particular standard, whereby, you guessed it, a polynomial will result. So we're going to be having an example for each of these. So the first one, an example, let's say you have 2a multiply 2b. Because of this multiplication here, this is a product. And what kind of a product? Yes, I can tell that you can now see two terms, which is 2a and 2b. Yes, you're correct. But check, because of this multiplication here that I just highlighted and unhighlighted, you're going to be having, we consider this having one term because this will multiply in such a sense that it will join and form a monomial. But first things first that we need to remember, if now I have 2a 2a, for example. This value of 2 here, we call it the coefficient. Then this one, we call it the variable. So the common mistake people do here, they forget that these two are two different things. They just do whatever that they want with this kind of math. So here's the tip. Always multiply the coefficients separately. First coefficient, it's 2. The second one is also 2. And you put it into bracket. Making them separately, then you multiply the what? The variables, which is going to be your a multiply your what? Your b. Such that in this case, 2 multiplied 2 is 4. A multiply b, it's going to be what? To be ab. So what do we mean by ab? For those who are still confused here. If I have A multiply B, this can be written as A dot B, which can be written as what? As AB. So do not be confused as we go along to say we do not put the multiplication signs, even though we said products, they do that. Always have a multiplication. If it's AB, just know that it's going to be A times B. Then the example for a monomial and a binomial, this is the interesting one. So in this case, you're always going to have a bracket because this is not equal to this. Let me now put a bracket, B plus C. These are two different things. We're going to be talking into deep context around them. So in this case, we're going to be using a distribution property whereby the outer value is going to be distributed along the values that are inside the what? Inside the bracket, which this is the binomial, this is the monomial. So in this case, our A will multiply both A and B. A will be distributed towards A and what? Towards B and C. So A multiply B, it's going to be AB plus A multiply C, which is going to be AC. The reason I said our result is going to be by it is because we have the first term and the second term, which is two terms. Yes, you said it, which is going to be a binomial. So, e.g., for number 3, whereby we have a binomial multiplying a binomial. This is where we introduced an interesting property of mathematics that I very much like. So in this case, we're going to have A plus B, and let's say you have C plus D. There's going to be a whole lot context whereby now the signs they are changed. Please, that is another mistake. People, they tend to confuse those signs here. I will talk about that in a few, what I mean by that. So what will happen here, we're going to be introducing something that is called the FOIL method. The FOIL method, it tells you that for if the first terms, which is going to be A and C, they are going to multiply each other. So A will multiply C, which is going to be AC. Then it tells you that the second one, the outer terms of the expressions are going to multiply each other. So A is an outer term and also D is an outer term, which is going to be outer term, not an outer term. So A multiply D, which is going to be AD plus. Then it tells you that the inner terms are going to multiply each other, which is going to be B multiply C, which is going to be BC plus. Then the last one, it tells you that the last terms, last terms, they're going to multiply each other. So B will multiply D. So this now results into first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. Quadrinomial, remember, but do not tell your teachers that. It's a polynomial. In this case, you're going to be having 4 terms, which is considered a polynomial. Sometimes it can be a trinomial in simple context. So yes. Then we move on to number 4, whereby we're going to have a binomial, which is 2 terms, A and B, multiplying a trinomial. We're going to be restricted up until the trinomial. We would be able to do, because I know you're a genius and you're going to catch up to this, if we had 4 terms, you would able to use the distribution property. In this case, it's not called the FOIL method. The FOIL method only applies whenever you have a binomial and also a binomial. I nearly said a boiling. But in this case, A multiply D, distributive method, remember? A multiply C, it's going to be AC. A multiply D, it's going to be plus AD. Then A multiplying E, which is going to be plus AE, plus B multiplying C, it gives you BC. Then also B multiplying D, it's going to give you BD. I'm putting them into alphabetical order. Then B multiplying E, it's going to give you BE. So that is the context. If you can check there, how many terms do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 6 terms. So that is the whole context of algebraic expressions under products. We're going to be focusing on these four scenarios basically. So going back to what I was talking about whenever I was talking about the binomial multiplying the binomial, students have a tendency of making sign errors whenever they use the FOIL method. You must always know that negative multiply negative, it gives you a positive. Negative multiply positive, it gives you a negative. And also a positive multiply negative, it gives you a negative, which you just swap them around, and a positive multiply a positive, it will give you a positive. So please do not make mistakes around these multiplications of sign because they're very important in simplification of products. And also sometimes people or students, they omit one or two terms whenever they are dealing with the binomial and the trinomial. So also that you have to be careful. And remember the first one, do not forget to multiply the coefficients together first and separately, secondly, multiply the variables. That is how you're going to thrive from grade 10 up until grade 12, or rather continuing from grade 12 upward if you're pursuing anything that has to do with maths. So thank you for your ear, and also let's catch each other on the next lesson whereby we'll be focusing on specific practice questions based on this topic here of products.